Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel, and welcome to A New Majority. A New Majority came to me because I really enjoy the news and politics, but don't find it to be very engaging. I think political discourse is very important, and I am hoping to be able to bring the news and politics to you in an accessible and engaging manner. Part of the reason why I'm starting this podcast is because I think it's very important to be able to represent voices like mine and experiences like mine, and especially to be able to give people a firsthand account. I think seeing people like me represented in the news and also politics is very rare. We're living in very interesting times, and my hope is to be able to spread political discourse and empower our communities to take action and to be aware of what's going on. Episodes will feature a special guest. We will have a wide range of experts and ordinary people, ranging from students to local business owners to professors to staff and faculty. I really hope to be able to engage in these interesting conversations and be able to help you guys navigate the interesting times that we're living in. Please stay tuned, and I really am looking forward to learning with you guys. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today we have our first official guest, Eleazar. Eleazar and I met my freshman year of college in a introduction to theater class. Eleazar and I both go to college here in Richmond, Virginia, and we are both actually out of state. I'm from New Jersey, he's from Florida, he's from Orlando. And so coming here was a culture shock for me. I'm assuming a culture shock for you. And so I'm just wondering, what are the differences and what was a culture shock like from Richmond and Orlando?
I feel like people are very closed-minded here in Richmond compared to Orlando because of the different types of people that live in Florida that come from different countries. I feel like it's easier for them to find jobs and connect with others and communicate, especially if they only speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So coming here, it was different to adjust. But how did you feel coming from New Jersey?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey, and just like Orlando, very big Latino population. My parents have a small Ecuadorian restaurant in New Jersey City, and so I grew up very connected to my community and my culture. And honestly, I found it very difficult, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's no Ecuadorian restaurants here. And were there a lot of Venezuelan restaurants when you first got here?
My first year here, there was only 2, but now 3 years later, there's over 6 Venezuelan
Wow.
restaurants. So it's
Yeah.
definitely growing, but very slowly.
Yeah. What's like one thing from home that you wish was here in Virginia?
Probably more friends that I can relate to. You are one of the first people that I met that I connected with instantly, and I feel like um, there's not much of diverse people here in Richmond, of course, but it's definitely growing. So
Yeah, and honestly, I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I think it's just so crazy that we connected so much and we grew up in like total opposite ends of the country.
yeah.
Yeah. What else do you think kind of contributes to feeling, I mean, I'm assuming you feel very homesick.
At the moment, not really. Traveling and studying abroad in Italy and Thailand kind of gave me like some type of secureness being by myself and not be like if I don't connect with someone, it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I won't feel sad about it, but definitely a big change from studying abroad and coming back. I feel like it's a little bubble where everyone kind of has their own friends and sticks around with the same people. So it's definitely harder here. But how do
Yeah.
you feel?
Um, I mean, it's so different. You know, you we are in Richmond, Virginia, but we're kind of a little bit like in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia. So we both don't have cars, and so it's very easy to feel trapped on campus. And you know, that can be a little isolating. But I do like that it doesn't get as dark here or as cold as it does get in New Jersey. But I know that's the opposite for you. So what was
Yeah.
that like?
I hate the cold weather, but I got used to it being here and living here for a while. But when I went to Thailand, it was definitely hotter than even Florida.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it there. And I was able to make more friends actually studying abroad than I've made here. Like,
Wow. Well,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think people here are very clicky.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're both seniors and we're graduating soon. And so I think we both kind of had that same experience where it was really hard to adjust.
Yeah.
And so I guess can you talk a little bit about like what your first like 2 weeks in college was like and
Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth with family and friends back home because I felt lonely here.
Mhm.
Especially, I didn't have anybody I could talk to in Spanish, and
Yeah.
there isn't really a diverse community here on campus. And the amount of people that go here that have a lot of wealth, it's not something that I can relate to. So it was definitely hard for me to be able to connect and like hang out with people because they're just their thoughts and the things they're used to are different than what I'm used to. But
Yeah.
now that I've experienced that, I feel like I'm more um, open minded to like hang out with people from all different scales because been exposed to um, like levels of poverty and levels of wealth and people in the middle. And like now I can go anywhere and I feel like fine. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you came from or how much money you have. It's
Personality.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think that's very interesting. Like, I feel like I felt very excluded from the culture. And I think I didn't realize how important it was for me to speak Spanish until I left home,
Yeah.
because my parents don't speak Spanish. I mean, don't speak English. And your mom, does she speak English?
Yeah, but not too well. It's
Yeah.
been hard for her to
Yeah, and, like, I'm assuming I grew up, like, translating for my
yeah,
parents, and,
me
like
too.
yeah, like, we go out restaurants, and I'm the one ordering for them,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
So, I didn't realize how important it was, and I felt very isolated until I met you,
Yeah.
and I think it's because, like, we talk in Spanish, and we kinda have, like, these inside jokes that you would only get if we're, like, from similar cultures,
Exactly.
and just so everybody knows, Eleazar is Venezuelan
Yeah.
and half Italian?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you are full
Full
Ecuadorian.
Ecuadorian, full Ecuadorian.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think it's really nice that, you know, even though I guess it took us being here in Richmond, Virginia to kind of find that, connection with each other
Yeah.
that we never would have met otherwise, but I'm glad that we're kinda going through this college life-changing experience together.
Of course, and now that we're seniors, I feel like there's pros and cons of being a Spanish. Like, I was able to get a job offer because I speak Spanish, specifically because they were looking for someone bilingual.
Mm,
So I feel like even though we do come from different backgrounds, it can be beneficial at times.
yeah.
Of course, I know you speak fluent Spanish too, and I feel like that's helped you in your life, right?
100%. It
Yeah,
definitely has, and it's definitely helped me get jobs. I wonder, because I think being here in a university, you see many different types of Latinos.
yeah,
So what kind of Latinos have you encountered, or has your experience with other Latinos besides me been positive? Have you, well, I guess first, like, have you witnessed anyone like hide their Hispanicness? Like, have you seen anyone hide the fact that they're Latino or shy away from that?
yeah.
And what's that like?
Yeah, I'm actually taking a class right now. It's called Staging Gender, and there is a girl in my class that's a freshman, and she's Hispanic, but she doesn't really like to speak Spanish, and she's kind of closeted in that way. I think it's because since we're in this environment where she's kind of pressured to like be more
Assimilate.
yeah, like, be similar and, like, relate to others, it's hard for her to speak Spanish, so I the other day, I saw her walking around, and I said "Hola," like, "hello" in Spanish, and she was surprised, she didn't even know I was Spanish, but I can tell when someone's Spanish just
Yeah.
by the way they act and the way they express themselves, I can kinda see the difference between when they speak English, but in a way that expresses their feelings or
Yeah.
thoughts in the Spanish way, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, I understand what you're
Because of
saying.
the culture, you can kind of connect and see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've experienced the same thing, especially when you meet people who grew up in suburbs and only around white people. And I
Yes.
guess like how that kind of like um I guess sometimes like interferes with how people express their Latinidad, right?
Yeah.
Um definitely been like interesting being in a university and just witnessing that. So Eliezer and I are both seniors, and so much has happened in the last 4 years. You know, you've gone abroad. Um, you know, I've changed my major, many different things that we've done, and so I know for anyone that's listening and is in college, maybe a freshman, a sophomore, or thinking about going to college, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself? And what's one piece of advice that someone's given you that's really stuck with you to help you navigate these 4 years?
I think that the best advice that has been given to me is that nothing's permanent. Everything is temporary.
Mm,
And with that thought in mind, you kind of see yourself in a place where you make the most out of wherever you're at. So either if you're sad or happy about the decision you've made, just think about it in a way like this is temporary and always make the most out of it and just live live life happily and
yeah, and I think you definitely, like, live by that.
yeah.
I think Eliezer is definitely one of those people that is very eccentric, very friendly, very, personable. Like, I think that's one thing I love about being friends with you is that you're just so outgoing and so friendly and very positive, you know, and I think part of that really does come from, like, having a strong foundation in yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. What what are you looking forward to? Like what's your next move?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to graduating. I feel like I've been in college for so long.
Yeah.
Um, I one special thing that I really wanna do is, you know, this podcast and, like, having this conversation, um, you know, being able to, again, like, elevate people's voices, kinda, like, share topics of conversation that we, I guess, normally wouldn't have, and, um, yeah, I'm just looking forward to being able to make some type of difference in our communities. I think, throughout my time here, I've visited school board meetings, I visited, town halls here in Richmond, Virginia, and I learned that, 50% of Hispanics in high school here don't graduate, and I
Wow.
remember learning that and just being shocked,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that
How yeah,
shocking?
that I've never heard that before. That's shocking.
Yeah, and I couldn't imagine, like, not getting an education,
Yeah.
and I think that for people in our community, maybe, like, um, sometimes, like, it's not necessarily emphasized to get an education,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, I think you told me that a lot of people from your high school didn't end up going to college.
Yeah, most of them they just they're so into like that we have to make money and just focused on working and working and just making money but at the same time it's like where you can't get to a high level if you don't get a good education. So now I go back home and I visit and it's like they're still doing the same job, working at McDonald's or like construction, and it's like what have you gained in these 4 years? I feel like I go back and it's they're just on the same routine.
Yeah, and I think it's important to emphasize too that, like, people have different paths, like, not everybody goes to college, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I think what you're trying to portray is just that, um, I guess, like, progression, right? Like, if you do work in construction, do you wanna one day, like, own your own construction company? If
exactly.
you
Yeah,
work at McDonald's, do you one day hope to be able to own a franchise, you know? Like, I think, um, us being here has kinda given us a foundation to kinda, like, wanna do above and beyond and
yeah,
kinda get to, like, a point where we have that security and stability.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think the podcast is your next move? What sparked the move in like doing this? What is your passion for it?
Mhm. I think for me, since, the election last year, and I think inauguration day when the president signed, like, a reversal on birthright citizenship,
Yeah,
that it kind of, like, ignited something in me and honestly scared me. Are you're first generation
yeah, I
American?
am.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'm first generation American too. Both my parents are immigrants, both his parents are immigrants, and so imagine if, like, we would have been born and that had passed, then we wouldn't be citizens right now. You
Yeah.
know, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here right now, like seeing how um like uh difficult it is for people to maintain like their rights just as citizens here or residents here.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what sparked it, you know, like
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine if I wasn't a citizen. I couldn't imagine if I had to worry about that.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
And I feel like that connects back to being on campus and connecting with other students. It's like if everyone stays in their own bubble and just keeps hanging out with the same people that they've been hanging out with their whole life, the community won't grow.
Yeah.
So
And I guess like another thing too on that note is like, you know, like I really do think that politics is all around us, you
yeah,
know, like the reason why we're probably one of two Latino people in a classroom,
yeah,
or sometimes you're the only one.
yeah,
And there's probably many classes where there's no Latinos,
yeah,
you know, like there's so much that goes into so much politics that goes into our lives that we don't necessarily think about. But my hope is that, you know, Latinos are a growing population in this country. Spanish, I think, is becoming one of the most common languages in this country.
yeah,
And there's so much hostility towards Latinos, you
yeah,
know, especially Venezuelans.
yeah.
And you're from Florida. So, like, how do you, like, and you're also Venezuelan. So, how has your perspective changed on having that identity?
I look at it in a positive way because I've gotten more benefits out of it than cons. So I feel like it's a good thing that I'm foreign, I guess. My parents are foreign. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, well, I guess like the rhetoric towards Venezuelans, do you feel like it doesn't apply to you, or they're not talking about you since you are like also American?
Yeah, no, they definitely do. Like when I meet people, they're always like, "Where are you from?" And even though I was born in the US, it's like I always have to say my mom is from here, my dad is from here, and they met here and had me. So I'm kind of mixed, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't have a strong identity. I don't identify as like fully Venezuelan or fully Italian or fully American. It's like kind of I'm just mixed, I guess.
Fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
How do you feel? Like
yeah.
what if someone asks you where you're from, what would you say?
American, well, Ecuadorian American. I mean, the thing is, I go like back to Ecuador
Yeah.
occasionally, and like my cousins, you know, they don't think I'm one of them. You know, like they don't refer to me as like Ecuadorian. They you know, call me American or gringa, you know,
Yeah.
but like our perception of gringa here is like so different. So it's like
Yeah.
kind of kind of hard to um I don't know, like understand that. But no, I would say like I think my number one identity is being Latina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if anyone were to ever ask me like at at the root of it, who are you? I'm Latina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a strong identity with that, and I'm very interested in being able to help other Latinos. I mean, not
Yeah.
just Latinos. I grew up in a very diverse area. My best friend is Egyptian, and other people that I met back home are Indian or Asian. You know,
Yeah.
very varied parts of the world. Was it like that in Florida?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the same way. So that's why it was really different being here because there isn't really a diverse community other than people that are studying here for a temporary amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you make a strong connection with someone from Spain, for example, and
Yeah.
then they leave, and it's kind of like,
Sad.
yeah,
But you know what? Like I started thinking about this, and it's like we're both in this school, right? We're both like people of color in this school. You know, this school has a lot of wealthy students,
yeah,
and I think you would assume like a lot of your friends would be like American, but I've noticed for myself that a lot of my friends are actually international.
yeah,
And I feel like I've had more connections with people that are international than I have had with Americans here.
yeah,
And it kind of like shows you how much wealth makes a difference,
yeah,
right? Like I feel like because they're so wealthy, they're kind of a little disconnected.
yeah. It's like they the way they do things, the way they speak to each other. I feel like it's just different topics and different ideas in their head,
Yeah.
and that's fine, I guess. But it's just harder for um, people to merge together and do make change or talk about things, it just makes it harder.
What is one thing that you think would help people like connect with each other and build more community?
I feel like having events where everyone feels safe and included.
Mhm.
Um, for example, if we have an event and they're charging 50, $100 to go, it's like not everyone can do that. So
Yeah.
um, going out as well, like there's a dining hall here, but like a lot of students make groups and go out and eat, and some students can't afford that to go out every night. So
Yeah.
I feel like the friendships that we make are kind of similar to like our background and
Yeah.
what we're used to and what we can and cannot do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I totally agree. And I guess like shifting a little bit, you're such a friendly person. And I feel like anyone that knows you would probably say that, even if they probably met you for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
How did you get there? And what makes you like so friendly?
I think that growing up in a place where it was hard for me to um make friends kind of did that to me. My mother was very protective of me because she raised us by herself. It was just her, and I feel like she just wanted us to be safe. So I think that's what made me more friendly was because I was always protected and everything is dangerous, and like I just have a different idea of what that means. Like I feel like if you're friendly to people and you make connections, it makes you feel safer. If you
Mm,
isolate yourself and like listen to your parents, I guess my mom, of course I know where she's coming from, but if you don't know people in your community and you don't know the people around you and you just always have that fear of like they're dangerous,
yeah.
then it's just going to make it harder on yourself.
Yeah.
Even now I feel like she's always has fear of like getting her house broken into or whatever. But when I go
Yeah.
back home, it's like I know everyone in my community. Like I go back and visit, and I feel totally safe.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think part of that like distrust also comes from like maybe being an immigrant because I think
yeah,
like my parents too kind of have that like don't trust anyone,
yeah,
no one's your friend,
yeah,
and I kind of hate that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, I get where they're coming from because they did grow up kind of I guess in uncertain times and in Ecuador. I think there was like a financial crisis and economic crisis when they were there, and so I guess they have like that trauma, but
yeah,
you have broken out of that.
yeah,
You're kind of challenging that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like if even if you don't like someone or can't relate to them, always have like that friendliness with them because you never know when you need somebody's help or advice, or if you don't know about something, but that person has a lot of knowledge. You can learn from people even though you don't want to have a strong connection with them. Just having and being friendly with people gets you places.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I totally agree. And again, like you're just so friendly and I love that. Um I guess like a random question is what's one thing that you're looking forward to in the future?
Um, I think that I want to travel more and just keep seeing what the world has to offer. Um, because when we just stick to our usual place, I feel like we learn less.
Yeah.
Like if we're out there and meeting people from that have had different experiences, we can look at life differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were to go anywhere, money wasn't an issue, where would you live?
I think I would live in South America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where?
Colombia or
Wow.
maybe Brazil, somewhere
Wow.
where there's like Spanish speaking people and a diverse of different people that are working there or
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I feel like people whenever you ask anyone where do you want to go, they usually say like somewhere in Europe.
Europe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like most of my family want to live in Europe,
Yeah.
but I don't really find it like
I don't
it's
find that
beautiful.
appealing.
It's not
No,
that appealing. Like
yeah.
it's like everyone wants that lifestyle, I guess.
I think they're just trying to like chase that I mean, I feel
That
hesitant to say
TikTok life.
that
Like,
TikTok life, or I would even say like kind of like I don't know. I guess there's so much stigma behind like a first world and a third world country.
yeah,
And so like when people see these European places and they're like, yeah, this is a first world country, they're so developed, blah blah blah, but
yeah,
it's like kind of at an expense of something,
yeah.
right? Like I don't know. I just think that like if we were to go back to like where our parents are from and be there, like that'd be so great, you know?
It's yeah, I go to South America and I just feel like it's where I'm from. Like I feel comfortable there
Yeah.
because I can connect with anybody on the street and just like talk to them as if they were my family member. And I feel
Yeah.
like I've been raised here in the US and I can't even do that here where I
Yeah.
grew up, and it's just crazy to me that you can go somewhere else and feel more comfortable than where you're from.
Yeah, and like I kind of struggled with that, because I remember when I went back to Ecuador with my family when I graduated from high school, I felt very weird, like walking through the streets and meeting people that grew up with my parents. And I guess like also just thinking about how different our lives would be
Yeah.
if they never would have came here.
Yeah.
So I guess like I mean, if your parents never would have came here, you wouldn't be born
Yeah.
because they met here. But let's say like you would have grown up in Venezuela. How different do you think your life would be?
I think it would have been
Could you even imagine it?
extremely different. Like I couldn't even imagine it. The poverty that's going on right now and the amount of people that are being killed and the way the government works over there, it's just crazy. So I can't even imagine where I would be if I was born there. Like,
Yeah.
of course, being here has given me the opportunity to explore and experience more than what I would have if I would have been born in Venezuela, of course.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think the same way, like, I mean, I think if I would have been born in Ecuador and lived there, I probably would not have a college degree.
Yeah.
I'd probably be a mom right now,
Yeah.
like on my third kid.
What would be your like a perfect world for you?
What do you mean?
Like I'll give an example
Yeah.
of me. Like a perfect world for me would be a world where we're not restricted to travel to places. Like for example, if you had a passport from a certain place, they need visas, or like it's harder for some people to go to other places than Americans or like Australians, or and I feel like that's something that everyone should have the right to do. Why are we restricted to only go and like travel to certain places based on where we're from? Like that's not, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel like we're in an interesting place, and I think we get an interesting perspective being students here because
Yeah.
there are so many international students. And I
Yeah.
think for me, learning about how much uncertainty my friends have and like
Yeah.
how worried they are that they won't be able to work here once they get their degree, and
Exactly.
like they're just, and especially now they feel like so uncertain,
Yeah.
and yeah, I couldn't even imagine that. But I guess to answer your question, what a perfect world would look like for me. Um, I guess it would be a world with obviously no racism and no poverty,
Yeah.
and I think I think a perfect world would probably be more equity, like I really hope that 5 years from now when we're looking back at the world, 5 years, 50 years from now when we're looking back at the world, that there aren't so many inequalities, and when you look around a classroom in a university, you see many faces there. You don't just see one type of person, and when you walk through neighborhoods, it's not just like one group of people that own all the houses, it's all groups of people. And yeah, I think a perfect world would be where people talk to each other,
Yeah.
regardless of what your beliefs, regardless of what you look like, because I think that's not happening anymore,
Yeah.
you know
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah. Now that you're older, like been through college 4 years now, what would you say to a younger person? Like just if one random kid comes to up to you, a middle school kid, and
Yeah.
asks you like, give me one piece of advice for me, like in
Yeah.
life, what would it be?
It's so crazy because I feel like I'm kind of in a place, and I don't know if you feel the same way, where I feel so different from who I was when I first entered college or who I was when I first started middle school,
Yeah.
and I guess one thing I would say is probably just one, two things I guess I would say. Trust yourself and work hard.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, especially being in college, we kind of feel pressured. I mean, we feel pressured to be in college,
Yeah.
and then we feel pressured to follow a certain career. We
Yeah.
feel pressured to do a certain job. And so I would probably say, like, don't feel pressured. Don't like let yourself kind of become a ball or something other than yourself to appease anyone, because at the end of the day, like, we're living our lives
Yeah.
and we're the only ones living it, you know? I think it's important to hold what your parents say to a higher degree, but I also think it's important to know when you have to step back,
Yeah.
know when you need to do certain things. I think one regret I have is probably like not taking time off of school, because I feel like if I would have done that, I probably like would have like way better grades or whatever. Because I feel like, and you can talk about this or tell me about this. Like, I feel like in college, you kind of at some point go through like a depressive
Yeah.
phase. I don't know if you went through that, but I feel like I did, especially my like sophomore year of college, and that felt like a never ending bubble, you know.
Yeah.
And I think like especially for some, like, I want to go to grad school, and now looking back, I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But I don't know, when you're older, you can kind of reflect and be like, okay, yeah, like I know better now.
Yeah.
But what's one thing you would say?
To
A middle
advice,
schooler. Yeah.
yeah. I think just trust the process and always be happy where you're at. I feel like people often complain about certain things, and this is what makes us like stressed and stuff. So I feel like just being happy where you're at and like just looking towards the future and just imagining what you could do next is the best way to travel through
Yeah,
life.
yeah, it's so crazy. You always think, I mean, I don't know how you felt in middle school, but in middle school, I always felt like life was so straightforward.
Yeah.
And it's like so not straightforward. I feel like you gotta like zigzag, or you make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes mistakes can feel like they're the biggest mistakes ever, and
Yeah.
then you'll never get through it. But with time, like you really do like move through it,
Yeah.
and it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah. I agree. Agree.
Yeah. Um. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate your perspective, and I really do think that you gave me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I love talking to you, but I feel like we talked about some things today that we normally wouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hope you come on again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me. And we usually don't talk about stuff like this. We're more like friendship. So it's definitely been a different experience to do this with you. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you just inviting me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tune in for next week's episode. I'm so excited to share this with you guys.